Good afternoon, everyone. I thank all of you for being here today. Today is June 1st, 2021. It's approximately 6:03. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order tonight. We're here for our budget workshop. We're going to open up, we're going to ask Commissioner Edwards, if you would lead us in prayer. We're going to ask Commissioner Sanders, if you would lead us in our pledge, please.
Let us pray. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father above, we thank you for another day. We thank you for the opportunity to come together and do the business of the county. We ask this time that you would give us strength, wisdom, and discernment. We ask all these things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over now to our county manager, Mr. Lloyd Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to take just a minute before we begin to thank all of the department heads and all of the elected officials who have taken part in putting together this proposed budget for FY22. And I'd particularly like to thank Brittany and her staff, and in particular Brittany, who has done so much work on this budget for this year, and in putting together, utilizing some new software that we have purchased, and in putting together this presentation, which is very easy to look at and also is very user-friendly. This is comes from an interactive software that we have in our on our website, and I think it'll make it a lot easier for the public to see. But thanks to all who have worked so very hard on this, and in making this a budget that I think is a very workable budget. In general, our proposed budget for fiscal year 2022 for the general fund is $78,128,142, and which is a 2.5% increase over FY21. And the total budget, which includes general fund and all of our other sources of revenue and all of the other funds, is $119,773,961, which is only a 1.6% increase over the total budget for FY 2021. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Brittany White, our finance director, to go through this budget summary with you.
Thank you, sir.
Are y'all screens working pretty? Can y'all see? No? Okay, that's what I was worried about. Okay, so the plan is to go over the digital budget book off the website. So it's on that screen up there. But I also took the all funds summaries and then the general fund detail and printed them out just in case your screens didn't work. So those are the two main parts of the budget we're going to hit on tonight. So if you have questions about what page number, I can try to look on this page, on the printed book, and then we'll try to work through all of it there. Yeah, so the whole book is right around 1,200 pages. That includes this introduction, the history of the county, the fund structure. So as a user, if you take the time to go over the introduction section, that's really going to explain a lot about the way governmental finance works, the way budgeting works, the way our fund structure works. So I really encourage everyone to take some time and read through that, because that's really going to help you to understand the way this budget is built. So one thing I wanted to point out here was the fund structure. So this explains the types of governmental funds, but then we also have this chart down here that is specific to Newton County. So you'll see we have governmental funds, proprietary funds, and fiduciary funds. So in those you have, in the governmental funds, that's where pretty much everything we do, with the exception of the enterprise funds, are held. So that's our general fund, our special revenue funds, our debt service fund, and our capital funds. Proprietary funds, we have enterprise funds, which are water, solid waste, and Gaithers. And then we have one internal service fund, which is the workers' compensation. The agency funds they're in a different color because down here in this legend that explains it to you, these are generally just funds that money comes in, money goes out. So there's really no need to budget for those funds. So that, and up top, there's an explanation of that. So I just wanted to point out this introduction section because I think there's a lot of good information in there. We'll start with our personnel changes. So these are the proposed personnel changes for FY22. Some of these are additional positions, some of them are reevaluations. In this action column, it explains. So we have one position for the BOC for a grant writer. We have one position for the tax commissioner, that's the tax assistant. We have one position for information services, which is a microsystem specialist. We have one position for elections, which is an administrative technician. The 4 positions you see here for senior services are all reevaluations. So these are just going from part-time positions to full-time positions. The magistrate court is also a reevaluation of the part-time magistrate judge. The GIS are 2 interns. The public works, there's 6 equipment operators, and those are to assist for the trash pickup. The 2 district attorney positions are also reevaluations, so those are not new positions. The fire services, there is 16 new positions to help fund or to staff Station 4, and these would not be hired on until the 1st of January 2022. And then there's 4 positions.
Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Brittany. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You said those are for Station 4, but what about 8? 8 is closer to being done than 4, right?
Right, and most of the personnel that we need for 8 have already been hired. They're in training. Some of them are still going through some of their training, but I think we've got most of the people there that we need for 8.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Brittany.
So the salary that you're seeing there under fire services, that's for a half of a year salary. And then development services, 4 positions there: a code enforcement officer, development inspector, a ZIP 1, and a planning tech. So that total comes out to 1.3 for contingency positions. So these, the money for these positions is not directly put into the department budget. It is transferred into the department once the changes are made. Okay, so now Lloyd.
I didn't know if we were taking questions in between. I didn't want to stop you in the midst. I noticed that for the BOC position in the preliminary budget, we proposed 2 positions. And I'm seeing 1 now that is on there. So is that the position that's already been hired? I don't know what the acronym stands for, the PIO? Because
That contingency spreadsheet, are you looking at the one for 2021 or 2022?
no, when we had the preliminary budget, if you go back to some of the videos in the workshop, there was 2 positions that was being proposed. It was the grant writer and the PIO. But I know we just recently hired the PIO. So what fund did that come out of, since it was in the budget?
The PIO position has already been hired, and actually it was budgeted for FY21.
Okay.
And I think what happened there was we were discussing the PIO, that PIO position at the same time we were discussing this, but it was actually funded in this FY21 budget, and that's James Tucker, who is running the board up there for us.
Hi, James. They're asking what PIO means. I was asking the
I'm
same.
sorry, Public Information
Okay.
Officer.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Commissioner Henderson.
Well, who have been acting as the public information officer, or is it the same person? Okay, so we just somewhat, I guess, promoted or changed the title or what?
Lord, you want to make clarifications on Brian and Mr. Tucker's
I'm
positions?
sorry, what was the question?
Would you
Mr.
want to
Chairman?
make some clarifications on Mr. Tucker's
Yeah.
position?
James will be doing is assisting Brian
The title. The title.
and I'm getting
Okay.
to that. And that's, Brian is the head of the PIO department, if you will. James is specifically working on video, will be working with video productions and also assisting Brian with any of the, with things like press releases and as well. But he has a extensive background in video production work. And so he's bringing that to the table, and that's part of what we really need to dress up our presence on social media, YouTube, and on Facebook, so, and those other places.
Thank you.
Okay, Lloyd briefly touched on the all funds, but we'll just dive back into that here on the big screen. So the overall total budget encompasses all the funds of the county. So all the funds of the county, the budget is $119.7 million, which is, this is page 4 of your hard copy book. So last year, the budget for all funds was $117.3 million. So that is an increase of, let's see, right around $2 million. So this shows the county revenue by fund. So general fund encompasses 65% of the whole county budget. The next largest budget would be the 2017 SPLOST. This year, that could change depending on where we're at in the SPLOST. We're gearing up to be in the position of this SPLOST where we've collected a lot of funds and we're able to start utilizing those. The next largest fund in the county is the water fund. Then you come into the solid waste fund at 5.8%. And the E911 fund is at 2%. And then all the other funds are pretty small, so that includes the fire district's 2.3, but then after that you've got capital improvements at 1.7, our grant fund at 1.4, and then all the other funds are under 1% of the county budget. And these graphs are I don't know if y'all can see these on your screen, but these graphs are interactive, so when you click on them, it shows you percentages and numbers, because I'll scroll up here. You can see numbers when you click on these graphs, so they're pretty interactive. The budget book also has spreadsheet breakdowns, so depending on what view you like to look at, they're both going to be the same information, just depends on personal preference here. So as Lloyd mentioned earlier, the general fund total budget is $78.1 million, which is a 2.5% increase from last year. Our LVAP, which is a special revenue fund, is $60,000 is the proposed budget for that. The juvenile supplemental services budget, the proposed budget for that is $6,045. The total for the sheriff's forfeited funds are $15,010. The total for law library is $2,000. The total for the sheriff's special revenue fund is $5,000. The total for the jail fund is $215,000. The total for the date fund is $90,150. The real estate grant clerk fund is $10,000. The district crime victims, this one's based off grant revenues, and so we budgeted 0 this year because we're not intending for any right now. The E911 fund is 3.1 million. The NSP fund is 3,050. Our total multiple grants, so pretty much all the grants that come through the county flow through the multiple grant fund. So the budget for that this year is 1.6 million. Our fire district fund, which is the special fire district tax that is on the tax bills, that is 2.6 million this year. Our capital improvement fund, the budget for that is 2 million this year. The FEMA, we really don't budget for FEMA because we don't really budget for national natural disasters. So we just do budget amendments as needed for that fund. So that's at 0 right now. We budgeted 12 million for the SPLOST 2017. Nothing for the 2011 SPLOST since it's fully collected. The impact fee funds, 1 million. Our total debt service fund is 15,645. Our total for solid waste this year is 6.8. Oh, the water fund is 10 million. And the total for Gaithers this year, which includes Gaithers and Factory Shoals, so that totals for both is 291. So that brings you to the 119 million. So another thing I'll point out here is under the fund summaries, if you go to these individually, so we'll just click on the LVAP, there is a fund summary at the beginning, and that goes over exactly what the fund is, where the funding comes from. So a lot of these are funded by OCGAs through that are the state mandates the way that we can spend those funds. So if that is the case, it'll explain it here. And then each of these have a more in-depth budget if you dive into them. Those are not in your books because, like I said, I was trying to minimize the number of pages because I know y'all don't want to look at 1,200 pages tonight. But you can dive into all that here on this digital book.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brittany, you were talking about the total capital improvement fund, the 2 million for FY 2022. Have we by any chance identified any projects thus far that 2 million would be going towards?
So tonight on the regular BOC meeting, there's an agenda item for a transfer. So most of those projects there are going to be in that budget transfer. That's going to be on the 7 o'clock meeting. So if you've seen the backup to that 2 million comes from that total.
So what we're going to see, well, I mean, I've already seen it, but what we're going to see at 7 o'clock, that's going to equate to the 2 million.
Yes, the budget transfer that you'll see at 7 tonight is around 2.6, but I just budgeted 2 million because I didn't intend for all the projects to probably happen within a year. So I estimated 2 million, and then some of that will obviously carry forward if it's not completed within the next year.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Ms. C. You were saying that the budget for Gaithers and Factory Shoals put together. I mean, all the funds was kind of bundled together. And if my memory serves me right, I think we had talked so much about Gaithers and having a funded budget from the county, from the general fund, about $200,000. So how much is Factory Shoals being funded? And I'm asking because I don't know. What are we funding Factory Shoals for? Do we still have a person down there, or is somebody patrolling it, or is it exactly what?
So up here on the screen, I have the fund detail for the Gaithers and Factory Shoal Fund. The detail for this is not in the book I printed for you tonight, but up here on the screen. Let me scroll down. So in the revenue section is where you're going to see the transfer in from the general fund. So that, let me actually go down to the detail down here. Okay. So under the Factory Shoals department, the operating transfer in from the general fund is $100,000. That's Factory Shoals. Then we will scroll down here to Gaithers, and the operating transfer in from the general fund is $141,334. So that between the two of those, you're looking at around $240.
Okay, and thank you. Okay, so I guess maybe to Laura, what are we spending money over at Factory Show for what? Because I know, excuse me, there are some people who kind of stay over there, and I guess in, I won't say tents, but in stay over there. So what are we dedicating funds kind of for over there for Factory Shows?
Yeah, we have to do regular maintenance over there. We do have the campground that has to be regularly maintained. There's a boardwalk that goes down next to the river and a little ways up into the hillsides, and that has to be maintained. There is a house there too that we have to do some maintenance on. The parking lot, the trash pickup, and that kind of thing. Also, trash pickup in along the river, and that sort of thing. We do have an employee there who takes care of all of that, and that's the biggest part of the expense, is that employee's salary and benefits.
So if you would be so kind, can you tell me how much are we paying the employee, and are we getting any money from the people who are at the tent site?
We're paying the employee 40. It looks like total. There is. Let me see. We're paying him $44,000 in salary, and it looks like I'm gonna have to do some quick math in my head. 2268. Looks like the total is round about 70,000 or so, 71,000 total, salary and benefits.
Right, absolutely.
And then,
So,
I'm sorry, Commissioner, what was the other question you had? The fees from the campsite. We do collect fees. I think we charge $15 a night. Do we have do you have a fee? Okay, the activity fee there looks like we budgeted $5,000. The last couple of years, it looks like they've collected a little over $3,900 in, looks like 2019, FY19, and then FY20 it was 3,100, and in FY21 we haven't finished the year out. FY20 is, I would think, would be lower than that because of all of the COVID activity that's been going on. So
how many people is at the campsite? And I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm asking.
Yeah, no problem. I believe that we have either 8 or 10 campsites, and it's primitive camping. It's tent campsites. There is a restroom there, and there is a shower there. But it's all primitive camping. There's no hookups for electricity or any of that kind. Like if someone wanted to bring a camper down there, they wouldn't be able to do that. It's all tent type camping.
So our man who oversees it, the ones who make the that's the 44, whatever what you said, he's the one to go out and say, well, you've been here, and collects the money, and then he takes the money in return and gives it to somebody at the county. That's how it works.
Right. He does collect the money, and then it comes into the finance office, and finance deposits it, takes care of the receipts, and takes care of the accounting.
So I'm glad we have that in place, because a few times I've been over there, it was at will. In other words, you could put something in the little thing if you wanted to, or you just didn't necessarily have to.
Right.
Or it's just that, do we know who's all at the campsite? In other words, typically, it'd be all kinds of people at the campsite, and we know we had a couple of drownings, I think. I know you had 2 drownings, I think maybe this year. And so the gym he oversees, so other words, he sees people going too close to the, or in danger of like swimming in summertime, typically in summertime, they go down there and people get hot from town or wherever. They go down and take a swim and jump in one of the, swim, I guess, the river and get drowned. So do we have anybody warning people? I've seen a few signs. And so, it's their concern that concerns me, and also I think we need to somehow or another know maybe who are camping at those sites for that $5 or $10, $15 a day.
We do have some signage up. There are no lifeguards, but we do have some signage up advising people that they're swim at their own risk. That is it's a river. It's a wild river. There are trees and whatnot that
Correct.
float down the river, and people can
Yes.
get caught in there. So,
And you're right.
people do have to take some responsibility
You're
because
right.
we can't provide.
You're right.
You know.
You're absolutely right. But I think until we figure out, have a plan of some kind of oversight of telling people, I don't like going to people's funerals. And you said we had a sign and we told them. I think we should take more of trying to a preventative measure rather than just saying we got a sign there and you ain't got killed. And I know we forget the families on TV when they were saying it was 2 families. It was a family of the young man and a young boy who got killed. And there was another family that said, they need to close it down because it's not enough somewhat of protection that we think that the county should be giving, allowing people to go in there. That was all.
Well, we do also lock the parking lot up when at the times when we're not there. There's a gate across there. Unfortunately, people still go across around through the gate, but we do try to secure that as best we can. But it's pretty open down through there.
One last, since you brought that up, I got one more question. What can we do as a county, since we are funded to a certain extent, to put in place to try to prevent some of those people from going in and swimming? In most cases, drowning. I think it's been about every year if somebody goes down and get drowned.
I know probably the only thing that would convince people not to go in there when they're not supposed to would be if they were arrested for trespass. But that's a kind of a difficult thing to do. I don't know that we would really want to do.
I'd rather go to jail than somebody putting the body bag over them, take them to the morgue. Thank you.
Britt.
Right. So now, before we dig into the general fund, I do want to just show this part of the book. This shows all of the funding sources. So I think this is a really good tool as well because you can dig into the county revenue sources based off the classification. So you can go to taxes, license and permits, intergovernmental revenues, charges for services, fines and forfeitures, investment income, contributions and donations, miscellaneous revenue, and other financing sources. So I think this is a good tool for people to really dig in and see where the sources of revenue are for the county. So I just wanted to briefly hit on that before we really dig into the general fund. So as mentioned before, the budget for the general fund this year is $78.1 million, which is a 2.5% increase over the prior year budget. So this breakdown shows our revenue sources. So the revenue sources for the general fund come in at 86.1%, which is taxes. And then 5.9% is charges for services. 2.4% is other financing sources. 2.1% is intergovernmental revenue. 1.7% is license and permits. 1% is fine and forfeitures. And 0.8% is miscellaneous revenues. So the breakdown for that can be found here. So all of the taxes are lumped into a taxing column, and so you can see that comes out to 67.2 million for all the taxes. And then the license and permits comes out to 1.3. Intergovernmental revenues, this is where a lot of the grants come in, so there's a lot of projects tied there. Let's see. 1.6 million. Charges for services, which is your court fees, your sheriff special services fees, your inmate medical, prisoner, animal shelter fees, things like that come in here. And that comes out to 4.5 million. Fines and forfeitures are just what that says, fines and forfeitures per the court systems. So the total for that is 750,500. The investment income, we did drop that pretty significantly this year because interest rates are so low. So that dropped to 50,000 this year. Contributions and donations, that was budgeted at 36.3 or 36,300. And the miscellaneous revenues, which are pretty much all the rest of the revenues that don't fit into any of the other categories, is 629,349. And then our other financing sources, which are generally sale of assets and transfers in from other funds, which the only transfer in from other funds that we do in the general fund is the transfer in from the 271, which is the fire district tax. So the transfer in from there is 1,864,000.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brittany, I'm sorry to interrupt you again. Where's the Stanton Springs, the last sale? Where are those funds located in this?
Are you talking about the 2.6? That actually, since we've already received that, that's in the 2021 budget.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you.
Brittany.
Okay. We'll dive into the expenditures now. So as you can see, most of the expenditures by function, which in the chart of accounts you have functions, so you lump all public safety together, general government together, judicial together, and so forth. So the largest expenditure in the general fund budget is public safety at 52%. Then your next is your general government budget, which is departments like your BOC, your finance, your IT department, GIS. This is page 44 of your budget book, by the way, if you're looking for this. And your judicial is your court system, so they're all lumped together. They're 9.7% of the budget. Your public works is 7.3%. Other financing uses, which is any transfers out to other funds we do or appropriations, they're all lumped into this category, and that's 5.4%. Culture and recreation is 3.2%. Housing and development is 1.8%. Debt service is 1.3%. And health and welfare is 1.2%. So if you come further down to this chart of accounts, you can see what falls under general government. So general government is these departments. So this is also going to be our breakdown for all the departments for the FY 2022 budget. So we will spend some time going over this. And this is on page 45 of your book. So the non-departmental is where we budget things such as our contingency is budgeted there. Our other employee bonuses are also budgeted there. So that's generally where, that's generally what's budgeted in that department. So our contingency for fiscal year changes and our contingency for the proposed personnel changes that we discussed at the beginning. So those are going to be what makes up your non-departmental. The BOC budget is at $2,099,365 this year. The elections budget, I'm gonna have to look over here, so let me move my microphone because I cannot read that. I can see right here. 703,572. The financial administration is 957,747. The data processing, which is the IT department, 952,579. GIS is 375,488. Human resources is 640,833. The tax commissioner is $1,249,082. The tax assessor's office is $1,050,207. Board of Equalization is $59,689. Risk management is $1,820,000. And government buildings and facilities is $1,316,859. So those departments make up your general government departments. Scrolling down to the judicial category, we've got our Superior Court budget at $1,104,430. Our Clerk of Courts budget, which is $1,544,117. The District Attorney budget is $2,001,637. The Magistrate Court budget is $419,038. The Probate Court budget is $739,231, and the Juvenile Court budget is $1,138,232, and Public Defender is $599,537. The next category is public safety. So here in public safety, you'll find the sheriff's office, and the sheriff oversees the sheriff's office budget, the east side precinct budget, the west side precinct budget, the jail operations, and the student resource officers. So the sheriff's budget this year is $15,543,897. The west side precinct budget is $154,736. The east side precinct budget is $23,918. The jail operations budget is $12,838,812, and the student resource officer budget is $1,374,195. So the county fire services oversees two budgets. So you have your general county fire service, and you have your fire training budget as well. So the county fire service budget is $9,743,540, and the fire training budget is $117,714. The next department that falls under public safety is the coroner, and that budget this year is $114,379. And then animal services, $910,755, and your EMA, which is $394,049. So that makes up your public safety.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Brittany, refresh my memory on the school resource officer. That's reimbursed by the Board of Education, correct?
Yes.
At
So
at 100%?
not quite 100%. Close, but not. And I have not heard an updated number. If that number, generally the number changes, the revenue, because there's a contract, and I haven't heard of the new contract amount for next year.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Sanders.
My concern is, what did we change from the preliminary budget? That's what I'm interested in, and I love this. This is great. Thank you so much for this layout. But what was changed? Was there any changes, or was it the exact same preliminary as the preliminary budget?
Overall, the preliminary budget at the first budget workshop was around, it wasn't quite 80 million, it was 79, I think it was 79.8 or 79.6. This new budget is 78.1, so we did do a reduction. A big chunk of that is capital. So we had budgeted 2.6 in the capital improvement transfer in the general fund. So tonight, the budget amendment that will be coming to the board is for us to try to do those transfers in 21 instead of 22, which helped us to be able to reduce our expenditures. Therefore, we were able to reduce our revenues. And that is made possible by the $2.6 million check that we received from the JDA.
Okay. Now, do you have a list of, in reference to the non-departmental departments, were there any changes made to them, or was it stayed the same? Because I know this actually outlines the amount, but it doesn't break down the specifics of what is included in that amount. So I think that would be a lot more interesting to the public and to be more detailed, so they know exactly what's included in $900,000.
So if you dive into the department, which I didn't dive into department by department since we only have an hour, I didn't think there was going to be enough time to do that. But the department budget detail can be found under each department. So this is non-departmental. So you can see the spreadsheet, that's line by line details right here for everything in every department.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, C. Question that I have, we were talking about, you touched a little bit on about the school resource officer, and you said that most of it, all of it, I guess I thought it said 98% of the money, or 97 or 95% of the money is paid for by the schools. So do we put money up to does we budget money for them, and then they reimburse it back to us? And if they reimburse it back to us, where does it go? Where does that money go?
So in the student resource officer budget, there's a revenue that's a intergovernmental revenue from the school board. Mm-hmm. So it goes back directly to that department. Generally, we try to keep that about the same, where the contract amount is the budgeted amount. But I think this year it's slightly, last year it was slightly a little bit more, and then this year it's slightly a little bit more.
So is that money a total in the budget? I think you said something about 79 million. Is that part of that total of money that we have budgeted?
Yes, that is part of the budgeted amounts of the 78. I think it's the 78.1, and it is part of that.
Okay. So one other thing, I'm sorry for going back. You said there were 2.5 million that we got from over at JDA. You said that we had 2.5 million. So I guess the question is, how did they go in this budget? Because you said something like some of it may be in this budget, and you said in the 2022 budget.
So the current, and this all depends on whether this budget amendment's approved tonight. So this current proposed budget in front of you is going off the assumption that this budget amendment is going to be approved tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So the capital improvement fund is showing if you look in the revenues under the capital improvement fund, and I'll pull that up. There's going to be a line that says use of prior year funds. So that $2 million is a use of prior year funds, because the capital funds are multi-year funds. So you're able to utilize the general fund. You pretty much have that money to use in that fiscal year only. And then once that fiscal year is over, that money is no longer available. Capital funds are multi-year funds. So once the money is in the capital improvement fund, it can be utilized for multiple years. So that's what this budget's doing. It's showing you, let's see, a revenue of $2 million from other financing sources, which under the financing sources is going to be a line called
Yes, ma'am.
use of prior year fund.
Yes, ma'am. So I guess my question is to Lord, is that how are we gonna use that money to kind of ease some of the tax burdens on the citizens of Newton County from the taxes? I mean, I thought that one of the main reasons, and somebody help me, maybe I was listening to the wrong information, that money was going to be used to make sure that the taxes weren't as much as they would have been had we not received those monies. And what type of reduction in taxes are the citizens of Newton County going to have?
Well, by utilizing the funding in the capital improvements fund, then we'll be able to reduce the budget by that same amount because these are projects that we need to do. So we won't have to have as much tax dollars to support the general fund. We'll have 2.6 million less general fund tax dollars to support that. So, so that's that's part of the savings there.
So how do we show the citizens in Newton County that that money is reducing their taxes? How can we show them that? Because I think
Well, what we would be showing them is the projects that would be done with that money, and just simply the explanation that we have here, or that Brittany just gave you. I mean, we could certainly add a note to the to the budget book explaining that that's how we reduced the general fund budget requirements.
Thank you. Just one last quick question, or I guess comment, what you want to call it. Why couldn't we take the 2.5 million and say if the tax burden for the county said 8 million, we subtract that 2.5 from the 8 million reduction from the taxes? I mean, it seemed to be complicated, and I don't see where it should. I think it should be simple. Just take 2.5 million, subtract that from the tax burden of the citizens in the county, and that would be a reduction, and you would see it. It's just my math. My math probably is the wrong kind of math.
Well, I wish it was that easy too, but sometimes, the accounting boards and the state require us to account for things a certain way. But to kind of circle back to how can we show there's going to be a reduction, the original budget that was brought back in April to the workshops was right at 80,079.8. So now you're seeing a budget of 78.1 million. So that right there is an example of how we can show taxpayers that this 2.6 has come in and helped to alleviate some of the tax burden off of them, because we have reduced our budget from what it originally was in April.
Thank you. Brittany?
Give me just a second. Let me get back over to the page.
Commissioner Sanders?
Lord, you and I discussed about a communication fund for the commissioners. Just explain what Lord and our conversation was. There is nothing in place for the commissioners to reach out to their constituents. We either come out of pocket, we pay for those services ourselves as part-time employees. As I mentioned to you, that other counties have funding in place for their commissioners to reach their constituents. Have you put something in place for each commissioner that can at least once or twice a year send out a notification, because we're not allowed to use the county Facebook page? So is there something in place for commissioners to be able to communicate to their constituents?
I have not, but I wanted to hear from the commissioners of what you thought might be an appropriate amount. I mean, now's the time to discuss it. If you needed whatever amount you needed, and then we could make an adjustment in the BOC budget to cover what that amount might be. I think that we'd be able to do that.
Did I need to explain it to anybody, or it kind of understood what I was mentioning? Let me explain again. Okay. Lloyd and I had a discussion. I was telling him that in other counties, of course, other counties are larger. They have chief of staffs that actually do certain things for them to be able to reach the constituents. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm the most technical one, I don't know. But there is no fund put in place or anything put in place for the commissioners to be able to reach their constituents, to send out notifications. Everyone in the county is not on Facebook. Everyone is not technologically savvy. So there has to be a way to reach them. I know we have a Facebook page, but I was told the commissioner is not allowed to post their events or anything on that. So in regards to that, that puts it on the commissioners' pockets to be able to reach their constituents. So I was asking Lloyd, is there something, can be something in place? He did ask me an amount. I said maybe about 3,000 or 2,000 per commissioner to be able to reach their constituent a year and to be able to send out a notification. And it's just a figure thrown out there. It could be less than that. We just were throwing things out. But just something to do that because we are growing as a county. We're not that county where it was 90,000 or 80,000 people. Technology has changed over the years. And there has to be some way to reach those people who are on technology and those who are not on technology.
Just let me say, hey, I agree with it. I think the $3,000 per commissioner is a good amount. In lieu of the monies that we're already spending on stuff that we shouldn't be spending it on. So, and to keep this brief, if you want to know, just catch me after the meeting. I probably get you for.
Anyone else want to make a comment? Anyone else? Commissioner Calvin.
Okay, I'm not, what do you call it, technologically savvy, okay. A lot of things that I put into campaigning and everything else, it just comes out of my own money because it's an opportunity to serve. And I just hate to throw that out for taxpayers to pay my way to communicate with them. Believe me, they find me and they'll call me if they have a question. So I'm not sure I really too keen on that. I really have to think that through, and like I said, I'm not technologically savvy. I don't use Facebook. It's just not me. So y'all can do what you want to do. I'm just not. Well, hey, I mean, y'all do what you want to do, but I'm not for that. I just would probably vote against that. Thank you.
Let me correct that. This has nothing to do with a campaign. This is during our term. A lot of my constituents reach out to me and say, I'm not on Facebook, so I don't get the information. This is for those who are not on technology to be able to receive the information. So I get those calls. If you want me to send those over to you, I get them all the time. They say, I didn't know about that. I didn't know what was going on. So it's just a way to reach them because the county doesn't send them anything. So I don't know. I guess it's up to us. I'm just believing, communicating to the citizens. This is not new. It's done in every other counties outside of us. They do it in Rockdale. They do it in DeKalb. So it's not something new, and we just have to be open for change. We're growing. We have to go into the 21st century. We're still using communication that's antiquated. We have to grow.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am utilize technology a lot, so I do see where that could be an issue. Lloyd, I don't know if it's a possibility where, because I basically utilize my own funds to do that, even when I have Zoom meetings, I pay for my own account every single month. Maybe is there a way that we can look at these other counties that are doing that to kind of see how they're doing it and research that and to see like what funding source they utilize to do that, to see if we're able to mirror it to an extent. So maybe if we can do just some additional research to find out how other counties are implementing that for their commissioners, if that's something that we can incorporate.
I would guess they're probably using their general fund to provide the source of funding for it. So I don't know that, I mean, I don't think that would be an issue for us. I think really where we kind of are with it would be, one, the question is whether or not the board members would like to have that resource, and then two, at what amount do you think would be appropriate for y'all? So, and I think we would be able to fund that. I mean, if we're looking at $2,000 or so, $2,000 to $3,000, I feel certain that we could make some adjustments in order to provide that. But again, the question would be, whether or not you want to use that or need that resource. Commissioner Cowan may not need that resource, so we wouldn't need to budget for him. And likewise, maybe some of the other commissioners may not need that resource, so we wouldn't necessarily have to make it available to them or budget for them unless that they come across something. So, and really, all I would need at this point would be some kind of a consensus on whether to move ahead with trying to fund that, and then at what level. So.
I was going to say too, I do have some constituents that have expressed to me that because they're not on social media, there sometimes are some things that they don't get. So I have heard that as well. And so I've basically trying to, here recently, just trying to figure out how I can personally go about making them aware of doing that so that they can get the information. I know one of the ways that I have started trying to close that communication gap is really being in communication with my homeowners associations on a continual basis and allowing them to distribute information. So I'll distribute it to them, and then they'll distribute that information out to their homeowners. But of course, everybody doesn't live in a homeowners association. So for those that don't live in a homeowners association, I've been trying to figure out how do we reach them as well. One citizen suggested maybe putting up signs around the county when certain things come up. I know that's an expense, so I would have to look at, my personal budget to say, is that something that I can basically afford for myself to be able to put signs around when certain things are going on for those that aren't or don't utilize social media or don't check their emails often. So I don't know if I per se would have a figure tonight, but I think maybe that's something that we can further discuss to kind of see how we can go about that, and that it's not going to be, it's something that we can put in our current budget, and it's not going to allow us to increase the expenses on our citizens just to do that. So I would want to find a way where we can do it without throwing that cost at the citizens to do.
I think what we would do would be to take a look at those line items in the BOC budget to see if we could pull a little bit from the various line items. And then maybe make up whatever difference there might be to pull a little bit out of the contingency to make up that difference. So we do have some options at this point. Depends on how large it.
Guys, we are past 7 o'clock, and Lloyd, you want to kind of wind us down so we can move into our regular scheduled meeting, please?
Well, I think we've got, I know we didn't get all the way through this on the expenses, but the budget is available. I'm going to have Brittany go to the so you can see where it is in the, go back to the website. So this is available for you to, if you go to the transparency page, and it may take a minute for it to come up with what we need. Yeah, there you go. And then drop down there, you'll see 22 budget book. Click on that, and it'll take you to the budget book, and you can go work your way through that, and get all, dive in as deep as you'd like on that. And I think you'll find it pretty easy to read, and easy to get any information that you need. And the next budget meeting that we have is next Tuesday at 6. That will be our first public hearing, so the public will have an opportunity to comment on the budget. The second budget meeting will be the following week, and that will be on the 15th, and that will be also at 6 o'clock, I believe, correct? 6 o'clock. Once a budget is adopted, we'll have the information, then our next step in the process is to adopt a millage rate, and that will most likely be in, hopefully they'll have everything completed in July so that we can adopt a millage rate. We'd like to be able to adopt the budget by June, obviously by June 30. So thank you.
Thank you. Guys, seek a motion that we adjourn. There's a motion by Commissioner Edwards, second by Commissioner Mason. All in favor? Thank you. Stand adjourned. Guys, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess. Good evening. Today is June the 1st, 2021. It's approximately, we're running just a little bit behind time to 7:11. Our thought for today is show respect even to people who don't deserve it. It is not a reflection of their character, but a reflection of yours, Dave Wills. We're going to go ahead and now officially call this meeting to order tonight. I'm going to ask if Commissioner Cowan, if you would, lead us in our invocation, and I'm going to ask if Commissioner Henderson, if you would lead us in our pledge, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, Lord, we thank you, dear God, for your blessings on our county, Lord. Lord, we just pray tonight, Lord God, that you give us discernment and wisdom, Lord God, as we make decisions for the county. Help us, Lord, do things in our best interest for Newton County and not for ourselves, Lord. Lord, we just thank you for all things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Commissioners, you had an opportunity to look at the agenda. I want to add our minutes from the last meeting to the agenda. If we got to get those on there. Now, you guys have a copy at your station. So if you would make that 9K. 9K, adding a minute from the last meeting to the consent agenda, I'm sorry. Well, did I seek a motion of approval, please? It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. It passes 5-0. Next is citizens' comments. This opportunity that we allow citizens to come up and make comments about agenda topics only. You have 3 minutes to do so. Please state your name and your address for the record, please. Agenda topics only. Thank you. Next, I don't have anything in the chairman's report. I'm gonna go to the county manager, Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we've got a few pictures we'd like to share with you all from some recent happenings. The Denny Dobbs splash pad ribbon cutting that occurred on May 20th. I had quite a nice crowd there. You can see all the kids. They really had a great time. This was a wonderful event, and this was certainly a great project for Commissioner Mason's district, and you can see all that there. Next slide, please. And this was the Transit Master Plan Community Meeting. This was an opportunity for all of the people in the community to come and give their input on what they think that is needed for a transit inside of the county. And this was held on May 27th from, I believe, 5:30 to 7:30. There wasn't a large crowd, but there were a number of people who came and looked at the information, the data that was there, and left their opinions. Also, there is a survey, a survey that is being extended until June 6th. And if you go to you see the address up there, www.movingnewton.com, you can take part in the transit survey. They'll ask you a series of questions about your particular movements through the county and out of the county, to help try to determine what people are needing in the way of transit. Also, this is, of course, on our website, and I believe there's a link there on the home page. Is that right? Yes, link on the home page. Next slide, please. And this is the FFA, not FFH, but FFA campground entrance. Down on Highway 36, you can see the guard and entrance to, I guess, the guard shack, if you want to call it that, but it's really actually a very, very nice building. There is a roundabout there for those people who make that turn and are really not, just have made a wrong turn, so they're able to circle around the guard post there and leave, and that gives some real protection for the FFA camp when they do have a lot of school kids down there for summer camps and stuff. And obviously this summer will be a lot busier than it was in the past. So, and also to the right is actually where the arena is, which is home to, or hosts rather, quite a few events, show events for agriculture and all type of farm animals. So it's a great addition. It turned out very, very nice. Next slide, please. And some snapshot on Newton County on the COVID here. Total deaths you'll see there. Total number of hospitalizations has not changed significantly since our last meeting. Next slide, please. Again, that's the age distribution. All of this is available at the Gwinnett Newton Rockdale Health Department, and is also, there is a link on our website. This is available on our website, but there's also a link available to this information. Next slide, please. And this is a breakout by race and by age group to show you the numbers of people that have in each age, in each group there, and the number of, back up just a second. Oh, I'm sorry, vaccinations are on the next page. Next page, Brian, or James, thank you. At least people who've received at least one dose, looks like 24%, non-Hispanic, 16% Hispanic, male versus female, 29 and 23. And so we're beginning to get people here vaccinated, not quite at the pace of some other communities, but we do have a mass vaccination center over at GPTC that's open on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Vaccinations are available at a lot of the drugstores around, CVS, Walgreens, Kroger, as well as the health center, of course. So multiple places where you can go to get vaccinated, and we encourage, of course, everyone to get vaccinated. Next slide, please. And that's it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. C. I just want to just, we're working, and everybody's working hard as they can to get the people vaccinated. But let us not forget that people are still dying. May not as many as was dying. And when somebody passes, and I know I've had 2 deaths in my family from corona, my sister and my first cousin, and it is always a family that is affected by it. And as simply as could have been with my sister, she just wouldn't got her shot. So it means something. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, commissioners, I do want to say, if you are going to have an event that you know you're going to have 75 to 100 people there, please let me know. I can get the health department to come to your event and do shots to get that vaccine if you want. Please let me know.
Also, if you haven't noticed, I'm sure you probably have seen the ads on television, but Uber is providing free rides for vaccinations. So there is an Uber presence in Newton. It's not a lot of Uber drivers, but there are some Uber drivers here in the county. So if you need a ride, I'm sure you can take advantage of that.
Thank you, sir. Next on the consent agenda, I seek a motion, please. Well, you know what? Let me back up. We do have some appointments. Tonight we have a District 3 appointment for the Water Authority. Ms. Sonia Elijah. Want to recognize her? Ma'am, would you please stand, please?
I'd like to recognize Ms. Sonia Elijah, our new appointment for the Water Authority. I also want to thank Mr. Jimmy French for his 15 years of service. I had many constituents. COVID kind of made it more open for constituents now. They're being in tune into politics, and they want to get involved. So I had many reach out stating that they want to be on boards and wanted to be a part of the community to assist. So I want to thank Ms. Sonia Elijah for stepping up, for being our next appointment for District 3 on the Water Authority.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your willingness to serve. Also, DFACS District 3, Ms. Susan Jackson.
I don't think she's here.
We also want to recognize her and thank her also for her willingness to serve. With that being said, I seek a motion, please.
For the whole consent
Yeah,
agenda?
Commissioner Sanders.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, including all the appointments that are on the agenda.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Sanders and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. It passes 5-0. Next is item number 10. Discussion, consideration of facilities purchasing request, approval, renewal for 5 fields. Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Five Fields Landscape Company does all of our landscape maintenance for us on all of the buildings here, as well as the Cousins School over there, and we've added some other properties this year. So we did put this out for bid. We had 6 companies to bid on it. Five Fields was not the lowest bid, but it was the best bid. The lowest bid did come back so low that we discounted that one because we believed that they would not be able to do the job at that rate. So we did discount that one, but Five Fields was the best bid.
Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Lloyd, down on, it took them so X number of years to finish 278, 4 lane and 278 out to 142 in the roundabout. And I guess it's Five Fields does a wonderful job on the roundabout.
Right.
Is there any way that we can get with the DOT and see if we can be reimbursed for mowing the remainder of that center? It's such a nice road, and then you've got the growth that's just awful out there. Or would that open up a can of worms for just too, would that just make it too complicated?
I don't know that it would, but I'll find out. I'll be glad to ask to see if we can. If we can do that, that would be good. We have generally had some complaints. One of the about that, and I agree. So I'll definitely have Chester take a look into that, see what we can find out.
I seek a motion, please. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Cowan. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next is item number 11, discussion and consideration of Cornish Creek purchasing request, approval for professional service task order for Cornish Creek projects. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, James Brown could not be here tonight. He's on his way back from Savannah and did not think he was going to be able to make it here in time. But this contract is for our task order contracts for these firms: Carter and Sloop, Freeze and Nichols, Hazen and Sawyer, MR Systems, and Raftellus Financial Consultants. The first 3, Carter and Sloop, Freeze and Nichols, Hazen and Sawyer, are all engineering firms that specialize in different sections of the water distribution engineering, from pump maintenance to the actual design and installation of the infrastructure. Their contract calls for each of them, they would be utilized when necessary, and their contract would require that anything over 25,000 would have to be approved by the BOC, and that nothing that they could not contract for anything in excess of over 100,000 per year for each of those companies. MR Systems is a specialty company that is contracting with us to do work on the on our communications equipment with the pumps, and I'm not an expert on this particular subject, so it has to do with the telemetry equipment. Their contract calls again to the same, nothing over 20, anything over 25 has to be approved by the board. Nothing over 100K for the year. The final company, Raftellus Financial Consultants, has assists us in doing all of the analysis and the development of our rate structure, and does that on an annual basis for us. And that contract calls for nothing over 40,000. That the annual cap on that is $40,000 per year. So we'd like to, in each of these contracts, there is a set price for each of the various types of professionals who would be doing the work, and hourly, and that is part of the attachments to the contract. I believe they're an exhibit in the exhibit B or C in these contracts when I look through them, that tell you how much is for each of their engineers and each of their accountants and so forth, their professionals. And so those prices would be good throughout the term of the contract.
Thank you,
And
sir.
then they would be billed, or we would, when a task arrived, then we would be able to engage them and utilize their services with this task order.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, I seek a motion, please. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion? Commissioner Cowell.
Lloyd, just one question. I guess Carter and Sloop is still the primary engineer on this?
Yes.
Okay.
They're still primary.
Anyone else? All in favor? Thank you. It passes 5-0. Thank you. Next is Finance Department. Ms. Brittany White is here. Finance budget transfers for the following departments: GIS, Tax Commissioner, Sheriff Office, Jail, Fire Services, Animal Services, Public Works, Developmental Services, Judicial Facilities, Maintenance, and Recreation.
Good evening. Tonight before you have a budget transferred for $2,606,250. So originally, these capital items were part of the FY 2022 budget. Then when we received the funds from the JDA, we decided to try to relieve some of the burden off the taxpayers and fund this off of this check. So ultimately what this is doing is this is recognizing the revenue that we received from the JDA, and then we're doing that as a transfer out to the capital improvement fund, and then funding the list of projects behind this transfer. So the list of projects that makes up this transfer is $40,000 for a server for GIS, $39,140 for the software for the Next Gen project, $44,887 for software from the Tax Commissioner's office, $500,000 in vehicles for the Sheriff's Department, $200,000 in miscellaneous equipment, capital equipment for the Sheriff's Department, $50,000 for a Quartify system for the jail, $30,000 for headquarters and Station 1 renovations for fire, $46,500 for a truck for the fire department, and $29,000 for a nozzle hose for the fire department. $50,000 for animal service surgery suite. That's a partial funding. If we were able to put partial funding, then they could find grants and donations for the remaining. Also, $49,522 for a 1-ton truck for Public Works. $70,000 for 2 trucks for development services. $100,000 for audio for judicial courtrooms. $100,000 for paint at the historic courthouse. $80,000 for a generator at the admin building. $40,000 for new carpet at the admin building. $150,000 for unforeseen building repairs that might potentially need to be made, and $987,201 for miscellaneous recreation projects. Any questions?
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. I thought I heard you say we're gonna paint, what we're gonna paint in the historic courthouse.
I believe it's the exterior and the interior, but the paint for the historic courthouse, is it exterior and interior?
It's exterior and interior, yes.
Okay, exterior. So, my last question is, so since we spent on capital improvement, and I think you kind of alluded to that when we talked a little bit earlier before the meeting, so how much reduction in the taxes would it be for the citizens? I mean, I'm looking for a dollar. I guess I'm looking for a dollar amount. So it's gonna be maybe 50 whatever, 100 or whatever reduction in taxes when they get their bills, where it be a certain amount of money, they can see where it's a reduction.
So are you talking about like per person? So you would want
yes.
an estimate
Yes.
of 100? Okay.
Yes.
I can calculate that. I didn't calculate that prior to this, but essentially what this is doing is this reduced our proposed budget by the 2.6 because we were able to take that out.
Yes, ma'am.
I can go in and do a calculation off of it. I just I can't do it off the top of my head.
And I tell you the reason why I'm kind of asking these questions and wanting our taxpayers to have a reduction in taxes. I was on the board when we first talked about it, and we were so excited, and he talked all about it. So taxes is gonna go down, say because we finally got some major company come to Newton County. And I caught a lot of grief too over the years about it because it just didn't happen overnight. And I don't like myself personally. This is J.C. Henderson. I don't like lying to folks. As long as I'm, up here, I'm gonna speak of what I said and what we was attempting. I believe we were attempting to do was to reduce the taxes for the citizens of Newton County. And we thought, and I think Stan may have said it a little bit too, thought that was a vehicle when we started getting money as far as reducing the taxes for the citizens of Newton County. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I wanted to point out, Brittany, thank you for that information, and reiterate what Commissioner Henderson is saying is this 2.6 million came off of, we spent it this year, and it was money that had to be spent. So the 2.6 million that came from the JDA, our investments in the JDA over the last 20-something years, we got a one-time payout of 2.6, and it went to take care of some of our expenses, one-time expenses, not recurring budget type expenses, but one-time expenses. So the taxpayers, it's going to be hard to quantify a per person dollar amount, but it took 2.6 out of the next fiscal year budget, so 2.6 million. So while it may be hard to quantify, that's the high level that I can understand. So that money from the JDA has definitely gone toward needs for this county, and it's money we don't have to ask our taxpayers for now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanders.
Brittany, what did you state that the judicial system is needed for the project?
An audio for the judicial courtrooms.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I think due to COVID, a lot of things are.
Yeah, I received a lot of feedback from the judges and their audio system wasn't working, so, okay. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Seek a motion, please. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Cowan. Any more discussion? All in favor? You want to state the reason why?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason why is that, you know, we find money for everything, everything. And whenever we go out and monies come back, which is due to taxpayers of Newton County, we find something else to do for it rather than just spread out and say, this is money we putting back. And I understand what Commissioner Stan was saying. He said, well, you go on somebody's head. We don't want to go over nobody's head. We want you to know that money is coming back, reducing your taxes. That's what it's supposed to be about. Thank you.
All in favor? It passed 4-1.
Thank you.
Next item, number 13, discussion consideration of renewal of Cigna healthcare insurance. Mr. Kerr?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you have before you here is we are going to renew with Cigna Insurance for our health insurance for our employees and for y'all too, for that matter. We started early. It took us about 5 months here to get where we are today. Very serious negotiations. Gary Massey, our broker, is here with us tonight. Want to recognize Gary for all the help that he has given us and for the job that he's done in helping us to get a really great rate considering all of the challenges that we have. We were able to negotiate almost $1 million off of the original proposal by Cigna. We also have been able to keep the same deductibles and that we have had and co-pays out of pockets. We have also been able to negotiate a half-month's premium credit, which is equals roughly $360,000 that we'll be getting back from Cigna. Our total premium, as you can see, is $8.6 million. Now that includes all of that's the total premium. That doesn't back out the employee's contribution, but the total premium is 8.6. So, and then of course our employees do contribute to that on a two-tiered basis. But we've been Cigna. This will be our 4th year with Cigna, which has helped us to negotiate those rates, and we are looking forward to. Again, we continue to try to work down our claims ratio to get us in a better position so that we can, as we go up for renewal again next year, that we'll be able to negotiate even stronger. But if you have any particular questions about the program or about our policy, I know Gary is here and be glad to answer questions. We did maintain our wellness program. We do have money in there to pay for our equipment. We're getting extra exercise equipment. We do have money to pay for partial salary for a wellness coordinator, which is what we've been using for a number of years, and for all of the other programs and all that they have. So we're moving in the right direction, I think. So.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. C. Well, you know, I personally would like to thank Mr. Massey. You know, anytime that you want to, at least I know all of us can, go over to his office. He'll give you a rundown on all all the insurance and the deductibles, and he'd be the first to tell you that I'm working as hard as I can to make sure that everybody and employers are taken care of. And one of the reasons I believe that he does that and works so hard is because he's from here. He has family here. He pays his taxes here, and he loves Newton County. And I just say that for him. You know, he can speak for himself. He has did over the years such a great job, in my opinion, and I think most of the board will agree with me, as far as the insurance, as far as monitoring and helping the county with our insurance, that I think that we should ask him to look at our retirement for our county employees and see if we can, for once, since we have such a nice budget, to try and make sure that when their years of service is over, that they have a decent retirement. And I know that some of the employees, at least the ones that I go around and talk to me and call me, they does not have that. And I think that's something that we should do. Not tomorrow, ASAP. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Sanders.
Now, you know my questions about the wellness program. I'm glad you threw that in there. I don't know if it'd be Mr. Mackey or Lloyd. Mr. Macy, I'm sorry. The wellness program, will the individual that you're hiring, is that going to be a licensed certified fitness professional or just someone you're hiring? Are there going to be group fitness classes that are taught periodically?
Actually, it is a person who coordinates some of the programming that we
Okay.
have. They're not really a physical therapist. Essentially what they do are to help program the lunch and learns, set up for the health screenings that we have and the health fairs, the biometric screenings that we put up, arrange for the with the exercise equipment and to coordinate getting those materials and stuff there. So the person that does that is not necessarily a health professional, but they do have some health background. Bethany Lemons, the person that we have right now who's been working on it, did have some health background, and I think in a previous job she did some wellness stuff. But I think that's the next type of thing that we would move into. We want to expand. We would like to expand the program to where, you know, we can get more benefit out of it, get more of our employees involved. Unfortunately, our employees have not been very, we've got a small group of employees who are very active, who really use all of the equipment, and really use everything that Cigna offers. Getting our employees to engage has not been, we've not been terribly successful at doing that, but that's what we're trying to work towards. And in order to provide more things for our employees in the way of preventive health care, and, you know, getting them to realize and to utilize all of the things that Cigna does provide, because they provide coaching and regular nursing. You can also talk to health professionals, and they provide certain types of counseling for things like diet. For things like diet and stress relief and things like that. So they've actually got an excellent program, and we would like to be able to get people more interested in using it. So, but right now we don't have that in place, but we do have been able to negotiate to get the money from Cigna to help us with that, and they've been very generous over the years to help us do that. The other thing is we can control the money. We put it into the budget or into the policy. Other companies that we looked at were not willing to contribute as much to the wellness program, and then they wanted to have all the control on how the money was spent. And what we've done is by us controlling it, and we've tried to tailor it to the needs of what our employees have told us they wanted to see in wellness. And so I think that's been a benefit to us as well.
Yeah, I'm for Cigna because I work
Oh,
with
yeah,
Cigna on the
absolutely,
wellness
sure.
side, so I kind of know a little bit more about Cigna. It would be great to, just a suggestion, to have someone that's in there that's licensed and certified because they can show everyone how to utilize the equipment versus having a wellness director without that background. And also what helps brings employees to working out more is having group fitness activities, such as your Zumba, your kickboxing, your dance fitness. Those brings employees out versus just having a gym. So that's why I said it's better to have a wellness director that has a background of AFA, NASM, so they can actually provide those services. So,
Thank you. Seek a motion, please. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Mason. Any more discussion? Commissioner Cowan?
Just a comment, I've known Mr. Massey for about 30 years. We've worked together, and dealing with insurance companies is a fight. I don't care what anybody says, it's a fight, and I'd rather have him in my corner with me than anybody else. He's done a great job. Thank you, Kerry.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is item number 14, discussion consideration county manager proposal for feasibility master plan for Spring Hill Park. Mr. Kerr?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Prine has been working with Ascension Program Management, has been working with us for a little while now, and we entered into a task order contract with Jeff a little over a year ago. His particular contract calls for us to, and allows us to contract with him to do certain tasks for us in project management. His contract, though, requires that any of his tasks have to be approved by the board. So that's why these two are coming to you tonight. Jeff has done an excellent job for us and has saved us actually quite a bit of money in the projects that he's been managing. So the first one that you will see here is for looking at the feasibility. There's a piece of property that we've identified for Spring Hill Park, and I've asked him to do an evaluation of that property for development as a park and to see what that would and give us estimates on costs of that development and so forth. And so that first task order is for $6,250, and we would ask that you would approve that
Thank you,
task
sir.
order.
Take a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowan and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Commissioner Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So where's the 6,200? Did it come out of his SPOS fund or is it come out of general fund?
It comes as SPLOST.
It come out of your money. Thank you.
No, it comes out of your money.
All in favor? Thank you. It passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next discussion, consideration of county, I'm sorry, went too far. Consideration of county manager task order proposal for the project management service for Washington Street Community Center. Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Washington Street Community Center was also a SPLOST project. What was listed on the 2017 SPLOST. They have a number of things that they need to have repaired and replaced at that building, and so we'd like to bring Jeff on. Jeff has met with them and talked with them. We'd like to bring him on board as the project manager for this project. Their total budget. They have SPOS money and contributions, and they're looking at their total budget of being $595,000. His fees, sorry, having to go back here to the back. The total fees for this project are $39,120.
Thank you, sir. Take a motion, please. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Commissioner Mason. I'm sorry, Commissioner Henderson.
Let's see. Oh, so it's $39,000 coming out of Splash in order to fix the roof, because I know it's got a lot of roofing problems over there. Because I've been there during the election time, and you kind of get wet walking up on it. The little
Right.
sidewalk that goes where you get into the building.
There's, yes, sir, that's correct. All of the money will be, well, the $39,000 would come from, essentially come from SPOS dollars. The roof needs repaired. There's several renovations that need to be done on the
Right.
interior of the building because of some water damage.
Is the kitchen is gonna be also looked at or repaired? Because for our conversation that we had, Ms. Jackson and I, there was one of the other things that she wanted also was to somewhat to redo the kitchen and so they have adequate space in there and the roof naturally, because when it rains, sometimes it rains and it get up under the floor and et cetera.
Yeah, they need to do some evaluation on the roof and what type of roof, because now that the construction costs have increased significantly over the last couple of months. When we met with them, that was part of the discussion, was a big part of the discussion was the roof. They did want to add some square footage, and they did want to remodel the kitchen, portion of the kitchen. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done over there, and we're going to determine what all the budget will take or will handle. And they do have some people who are willing to donate additional money and additional materials and things.
Thank you, sir. All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next is item number 16, discussion, consideration, and direction regarding the proposal partial abandonment of FFA Camp Road. Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you look at the little clear folder at the beginning of your agenda packet, this is an item that was added in there, and it's a resolution. The resolution is not to be approved tonight. That will come at a later meeting following a public hearing. It's mostly in there so that you can see sort of what is contemplated, and if you look at the exhibits A and B on the back of that resolution, it shows you exactly what section of road is proposed to be abandoned. State law basically requires a finding on your part that the road has ceased to be used by the public such that it's in the best interest of the public to abandon the road. As I believe we discussed earlier tonight, there's now a sort of guardhouse at the little roundabout pretty near where the FFA Camp Road comes off Highway 36. So everything to, I guess, the east of that guardhouse is proposed to be abandoned following a public hearing and notice. There are a couple private property owners who do access that to be abandoned section, but we have an agreement with FFA that says the FFA will both maintain that road and allow those private property owners to continue using it. Again, this is just seeking your instruction that our office schedule the public hearing and proceed with the abandonment process. Nothing else needs to be approved tonight. Thank you.
I seek a motion, guys.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Edwards.
I'd like to make a motion tonight that we table this for a period of 30 days so I have a better understanding of the impact of this action. Even if it were to go to a public hearing and the road were to be abandoned, I want to make sure we understand it and all parties understand it thoroughly. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion we table this for a period of 30 days.
Sam.
Just to clarify, let's say the first meeting or I guess the first meeting in July, whether that's 30 days or not. Yeah, I don't.
I would like to amend that motion as stated by the county attorney.
Can I get a second, please? It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Henderson, that we table this until the first meeting in July. Any discussion? All in favor? Table to the first meeting in July. Thank you. Next on the agenda is citizen comment, just opportunity that we allow citizens to come up and make comments about any topic that you would like. You may come at this time. You have 3 minutes to do so. Please state your name and your address for the record, please. You may come at this time. Yes, right here.
Good afternoon. My name is James Federo. As you could probably imagine and guess, my first rodeo. So if you could just give me some coaching and be patient, that'd be tremendous. As I mentioned, my name is James Federo, and I recently moved to Newton County. I live at 80 East Forest Way. It's right off 136 in Mount Zion. And I come to you to really just kind of tell you a quick story and then just add a few comments about just my experience so far, my first year in your county. Long-term resident of Gwinnett, basically my whole life, with the exception of the time that I served in the military, and I couldn't really serve here because they sent me overseas. So, but in any case, my growing family, I'm sure you can see my wife and my young child in the back, is actually become a bit of a surprise. That's only one of 4 children that I have, so I didn't bring the rest of them. But in any case, kind of moved to Newton County with the idea that I had the opportunity to live in the country, raise my sons, raise my daughter, give them some space to sprawl out. We're kind of getting into the whole farming game. It's been awesome. And our dream was that, eventually we could kind of grow it out and have a nice little homestead. Well, what's ended up happening here is that my first year here, unfortunately and regrettably, has not been a super positive experience. And it's really of no fault of anybody here. It's really kind of unbeknownst to me, and you kind of run the risk of doing this, and there's just the cost of doing business when you move. It's a neighbor of mine who I'd be hazard a guess here and say that I'd be willing to bet that none of you would have ever experienced anybody like this individual ever in your whole life. So I was in the Marines, and I've seen a lot of things. I'll tell you right now, I've never seen anything like this before. So a year into my journey here, I've been met with, I would just say, a harassing neighbor, and I just want to talk about really quick 3 things. We'll start with this driveway. It's horrifying. So from the time that I started until now, I would tell you that there's a 20-foot skeleton with like a demonic baby coming out of it. There's a body with a cross and a rabbit's head bleeding out. 2 toilets with poop coming out and stuff. So just incredibly grotesque to the point where I have to tell my son, my 3-year-old is, easily scared. Please don't look there. Just we'll drive past that. So that's what I get to drive in the neighborhood with, looking at that every day. Okay, so we called code enforcement. We called police, and in retaliation, he has turned his music really, really loud. He'll shoot guns at 5 in the morning, fireworks late at night. All what appears to be harassing us because we've made a comment about called the code enforcement to have him remove some of this paraphernalia and this grotesque jazz in his front yard. And then in my last 10 seconds here, I guess my ask of you guys is that of the 12, 13 times that I've called the police, and the multiple times that I've filed a code complaint, it doesn't seem like I'm getting very far. I guess I'm out of time right now. So I don't know if I'm allowed to keep going or not, but really I just wanted to ask you guys, just please drive down East Forest Way. Don't take my word for it, and feel free to fact check me on my my complaints. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Snorton, and my wife over there, Kendra Snorton, and We've been out here in Newton County for, I don't know, almost 4 years. We reside at 30 Pintail Overlook in Riverwalk Farm subdivision. And I'll try to be very, very brief. My wife, she brought up, there's that light on 36 and Deering. Is there any way, like, who do we talk to about getting, like a turn arrow right there? Because that's, like, the traffic's getting really bad right there, especially in the evenings and everything. So, I wrote my local congressman. I don't know, I think his name was, I don't know, Hank Johnson, or I don't know. But they said that just talk to somebody in the county. So, I mean, I have no idea who to talk to about that. That's.
Wait.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get like a turn arrow, like kind of turn on Deering, like on the Dunkin' Donuts side. So, that's just one thing. And I guess the other thing, talk about like the Newton County citizens paying less taxes. We're not seeing that. I mean, our taxes have exponentially risen, like literally exponentially risen. This, for this upcoming year, I think we're having to pay like almost an additional like $400 in taxes. It's like almost $4,000. That's something that's like residents of Alpharetta and Johns Creek, North Fulton County. That's what they pay. So what? I guess I'm just kind of confused. What do we have to show for it? I mean, Newton County, it's a lovely county. It's big. There's lots of green space, and yeah, that's good. Now we can preserve some of the green space around, I guess, Covington Square. But I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get at, like, can we get more things out here instead of going to Conyers or Gwinnett County to spend our money? Can Newton County get like some more shopping in, like it doesn't have to be anything like a Whole Foods or anything, but I mean, can we get something like, I guess, isn't Publix supposed to be coming to the Covington Town Square? I mean, I don't know. We just have a lot of questions. So, and some of my neighbors in Riverwalk Farms, like we talk about this a lot. So this is our first time coming to the meeting. So I know this is on the county level. Maybe some of the things are on the city level as well. So we plan on attending those city meetings as well. So I don't know. I think this is what y'all do. So I think y'all could be of assistance. Thank you.
Can you please repeat your name and your address, please?
Oh, my name is Stephen Snorton, Steven. Last name Snorton, Snorton. My address is 30 Pintail, Pintail. It's all one word. Overlook, Overlook, one word as well. 30014.
Thanks, sir. If you will hang around after the commissioner, your district commissioner, will speak with you right after this, okay?
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for that time.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Commissioner Cowell. Yes.
Some of the people tonight have mentioned a little bit about taxes and everything, and we know that the recent tax assessments have gone out. We're going to be looking at everything we can do for that. I would ask people to take a look at what they pay in their school tax. If you get your tax bill, you take a look at it, 2/3 of it goes to schools. And again, I'm not one person that's against schools, but sometimes I try to tell folks to take their argument to the right forum. This may not be the right forum for that. Lloyd, I am glad to see something going on Spring Hill Park. Thank you so much for getting that going. And I think Commissioner Mason and I have talked. We both kind of have 162 is the boundary line between our districts, so we're both very grateful for that. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Ms. C. And I'll be brief. And it's about taxes. My taxes went up, and that's okay. But just let me say this. They shouldn't be. I mean, we have worked over the past 23 years hard to bring in businesses to reduce the taxes, and yet we see nothing. And I'm just sick of it. And if you look back at the taxes, $11 million of taxes are owed by people who haven't paid their taxes. And that's not right. And I don't care who said and how they may slice and dice it or what we may go buy for whatever. The citizens deserve a reduction of their taxes from the county. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Sanders.
I don't have much. I'm just excited that I will be turning 24 tomorrow, and I thank you for that.
Commissioner Mason.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to bring a couple announcements. For those who weren't aware, our rec department is doing a farmer's market at Denny Dobbs Park every single Tuesday from 4 o'clock p.m. to 7 p.m. They were out there today. There are some amazing vendors that are really offering some amazing products and services. And so I want to encourage Newton County, if you can, when you can, every single Tuesday at Denny Dobbs Park off of Highway 212, come out and support these vendors. They are doing an amazing job, and they're out there faithfully every single week from 4 o'clock p.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. at Denny Dobbs Park. Also, in addition to that, I have partnered with Goodman Homes Incorporated, and I have partnered with the founder, and every single Thursday from 2 o'clock p.m. to 6 o'clock p.m., we're giving away free food to our citizens at Denny Dobbs Park. It's going to be on the side where the basketball court is located. So when you go to Denny Dobbs Park, if you go to the basketball court side, every single Thursday from 2 o'clock p.m. to 6 o'clock p.m., we're giving away free food. We're also looking for volunteers to help us with that food distribution. So if anyone wants to volunteer, if you want to volunteer 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, if you want to volunteer the entire time, please reach out to me. I'll get you connected with the founder, and we'll make sure that we get you on a schedule to help us with that. I think it's awesome that we're able to continually give free food to our community. You never know who's in need. And so I ask that you all encourage them to come out, for those who need it, to come out every single Thursday from 2 to 6 o'clock p.m. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real quick, I know Commissioner Cowan mentioned that most people have gotten their assessments for the upcoming tax year. I got my property increased almost 30%. My mother's doubled. Property values are on the rise. A lot of people want to argue with you that's artificially inflated. I'm not smart enough to understand exactly what that is. All I can tell you is my home is worth what somebody will pay me for. So I think the assessors try to reflect that fact when they do the assessments, and they have their own system with all the algorithms that go with it. So and a lot of comps involved. But a lot of people, I talked to a gentleman right before this meeting, a lot of people are under the impression their taxes is already set. They're not. Your values, the millage rate for the upcoming fiscal year has not been set. They plug in the current millage rate just as a fill-in. So if your property value has increased 30%, and then you use the multiplier of the current millage rate, then you're going to get a big tax increase if your property has increased. So, and it's our job to find our budget and then adjust our millage rate to that budget, and hopefully that will be down to help mitigate some of the property value, the rise in the property values. I just don't want people to panic. I almost wish we would leave the millage rate off, or the estimated tax off when we send these assessments out, but that may be a matter of state law. I don't know, but I would encourage people to hold tight. Let us get our budget set, and then according to what that budget is, we'll set our millage rate, and hopefully you'll see some help mitigate some of the projected tax that you've been seeing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Guys, I do want to say to you again, if you know of anybody that's having an event with 75 to 100 people, please let me know if you want to get the health department there to do vaccinations. They are definitely willing to come out and do it. All you got to do is just let me know, and we can definitely get it set up. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you guys for being here tonight. I seek a motion that we adjourn. It's been motion by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Edwards. All in favor? We stand adjourned. Thank you so much.